I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
And Senator, just one more thing. Love your suit.
It's hard to shake this movie once you've seen it. I think he probably was thinking of Ted Bundy in some of the techniques of luring victims into a van.
Hannibal Lecter, the most memorable monster in movie history. How did 20 seconds change this character?
Silence of the lambs. Hello, Clarice.
Not that one, this one.
Good morning.
At first glance, Hannibal Lecter seems like just another inmate in a high-security prison. But today, you'll discover that's not the case. But for that, we first need to understand how this movie and this wicked character were born.
Jimmy, watch it, he's got it!
Why was Jonathan Demme chosen for the project?
I think the reason that the people that were running Orion Pictures at the time, Eric Pleskow, Arthur Krim, Mike Medavoy, Bill Bernstein, I think they saw what a hard worker I was. I think they thought that I had a gift for filmmaking. I was bringing these films in on budget, and they were good pictures.
But when starting the project, was there any aspiration for it to be a hit?
Of course, at the time, nobody knew, I didn't know, or the people at Orion didn't know that Silence of the Lambs had the potential for being such a big success. We thought it had the potential for being a very strong movie that could hopefully do well at the box office.
At first, choosing Jonathan Demme to direct the film didn't seem like the best idea.
Most people thought I was really being foolish to go with Jonathan on a picture like this. But I knew Jonathan's work, and so I felt that he could do a really good, tight thriller.
Say, are you about a size 14?
The hero role in this movie was for a young female detective, a role nearly played by Michelle Pfeiffer, who ultimately turned it down for finding the story too dark. And that's how Jodie Foster brought Clarice Starling to life.
For me, more than anything, Silence of the Lambs is a story about one person trying desperately hard to save the life.
This is the number for the U.S. Attorney's Office. Please, I think you discuss this with him, or you let me do my job. You understand?
The first time I spoke with Jodie, she talked about the idea of a character who identifies with the victim in a very passionate way.
But Jodie Foster didn't feel the same way about this story.
I really only like to do movies that I believe in and that I really love and I'm committed to. And I sort through every piece of material I can to try and find that.
Young woman goes in and takes on the monsters, and she destroys the monster.
Put your hands over your head and turn around. Spread your legs. Spread your legs. Put your hands in the back.
I loved her strength and her character, and I mean that in the largest way, in terms of the things that make her who she is, the unconscious things that she doesn't even know about, the things that draw her to her fate in some ways. I mean, I think she is a great American hero in some ways, and somebody who will, whose lot in life is to save innocent people.
Bringing a strong character to life is tough, especially when your antagonist doesn't make it easy.
Do you know what you look like to me with your good bag and your cheap shoes? You look like a rube. A well-scrubbed, hustling rube with a little taste. Good nutrition's given you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you, Agent Starling?
I can't think of anything more hurtful than somebody standing there saying, I really feel sorry for you. You're really pathetic. He started imitating my accent. He would say, oh, your problem, Clarice, is you need to get a little more fun out of life. And suddenly, it upset me so much. It like struck a really bad chord in me.
Anthony Hopkins brings to life a character who's more than a typical villain. He's extremely intelligent, but his diabolical side is that he's a cannibal. That villain is
Senator Ruth Martin, Dr. Lecter.
This version of Dr. Lecter is a work of art with an iconic performance, so good it comes close to the best adaptation ever made of this ruthless cannibal.
That's a terrible cologne you're wearing, officer. You should try something more casual.
In the case of Hannibal's role, with this one, there were no doubts.
When I was reading the script, first of all, I got an idea of what his voice would. Stillness and economy is much more effective.
Though there was some doubt about Hopkins.
We knew that Hopkins was an extraordinary actor, but we wondered if he would get Lecter.
However, he was cast, and any doubts about him vanished on the first day.
First day on the set in the jail block. There had been no rehearsal, so we weren't prepared for the moment.
We rolled it, and he went, "Hello, Clarice." And we went, "Oh my God, he's got it."
With just a few seconds on screen, one line, and an epic introduction, the character transforms.
Good morning.
In his first few minutes, we realize he's a truly brilliant guy, but a few moments later, we'll describe him as a true monster.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans. I put that in at the end, just for a joke. I thought they'd cut it out, and Demi said, "God, you're so sick." I said, "Is it over the top?" He said, "Yeah, but I love it." So he kept it in.
Another memorable and even slightly comedic scene.
Those great malignant villains are the most interesting ones to play because they say all the things that we dare not say.
Tell me, Senator, did you nurse Catherine yourself?
Yes, I did.
Toughened your nipples, didn't it?
These performances and improvisations simply leave you speechless. But the team's work in building a cell different from the other prisoners is also remarkable, adding even more aura to the character. Why wasn't the idea of bars for the cell an option?
Jonathan was very unhappy with all of this because he felt that if he wanted to really see the faces, then he would always have this in front of them, and so that, the audience would go crazy.
But how did the idea of glass instead of bars come up?
And then I just remembered one day how a lot of the liquor stores oftentimes were completely enclosed in plexiglass. And so I suggested that we do that instead, and that everybody was thrilled with that notion. There was only one person who was not thrilled with that notion, Chris Newman, who's our sound man. He said, "Wait a second,
And anything they gave him, he used as a tool for his performance.
You use Evian skin cream.
Another striking thing about the character is that, as a psychiatrist and killer, he has an extreme fascination with the human mind and an obsession with knowing personal things about others.
If I help you, Clarice, it will be turns with us too. Quid pro quo.
Though his interest in the personal isn't true empathy, it's an elegant, twisted, and brilliant form of domination.
Your uncle who hit you with a belt, was he a large man?
I don't have time for this, kid.
Did he stink like beer when he came home from work all tired from playing down at the pool house?
But Lecter isn't the only bad guy in the movie. There's also Buffalo Bill, who represents a completely different profile from Hannibal Lecter. His character embodies a disordered, chaotic, and deeply tragic psychopathy.
Puts the lotion on its skin. Now!
Well, say it, don't spray it, brother. Dang.
Seeing such a complex character, you wouldn't imagine what Ted Levine went through to bring Buffalo Bill to life.
It was intriguing to me, challenging. Complicated human being, an evil human being. I had a good deal of time to work on the part before we started shooting. I read a great deal of material about serial killers. Not a fun process at all. I mean, I lived with a lot of images that, I still remember.
And you won't believe which horrific serial killers inspired the character.
I read a lot about Ed Gein and this guy Jerry Brudos, who was dismembering women and trying to make lampshades out of skin and that sort of thing. The sense that I got from both of those guys in particular was that they were self-indulgent. They were really, I think, addicted to this idea of sex and death sort of being close together, and really got off on that.
Hey, don't you hurt my dog! Hey, you don't know what pain is!
Buffalo Bill wasn't just a maniac, he was also gay, so Ted had to adapt this into his role.
I checked out the transgender idea, I went to a club in Chicago called Le Baton where boys were dressed up like girls. I mean, these were guys that were female impersonators with breasts, and I interviewed one beautiful little boy, gal, whatever, and had a drink. And I asked her, I said, why do you do this? I'm just curious, and I was standoffish, and she was like, well, you want a date or what's going on? And I'm like,
And while we're still talking about this evil character, another challenging role was that of Catherine Martin, played by Brooke Smith.
Why would you want to do this? I remember that in the final meeting. They're pretty extreme
circumstances. So it was hard for me to really relate to. I think he just wanted to make sure that I could get to where he wanted me to get to emotionally.
And there was also a physical challenge she had to meet.
I also had to agree to gain 25 pounds. You didn't really get to see a lot of her before she was put into that circumstance. She was probably very different in those circumstances than she was normally, as I think any of us.
The Silence of the Lambs is a suspense and psychological horror film with very memorable performances. But the one that went down in history is Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Hannibal Lecter, who, with just 16 minutes on screen, had enough time to win an Oscar.
For the 64th Academy Awards presentation, Mr. Billy Crystal.
That's all for now.
I do wish we could chat longer.
Thanks for watching and subscribing, or Hannibal will eat you. See you in the next video.